The sky above Colorado turned an unusual shade of purple as Major Jack Harlow stared at his monitors. Something was wrong. The radiation readings coming from his equipment at Cheyenne Mountain Complex were unlike anything he had ever seen before. At first he thought it was a simple solar flare, but the pattern was too regular, too precise. "General, you need to see this," Jack said, pressing the intercom button without taking his eyes off the screen. General Frank Martinez appeared within minutes, his expression tense. "What am I looking at, Major?" "I'm not sure, sir, but these aren't natural readings. The pattern repeats exactly every 7.3 seconds. Nature doesn't work like that." The general leaned closer to the screen. "Contact NASA immediately, and get Dr. Wright on the line." Within hours, Dr. Olivia Wright arrived at the facility. As the lead astrophysicist for NASA's Deep Space Communication Program, she was the best person to make sense of the strange signals. Her team set up additional equipment while military personnel moved around them with growing concern. "It's a message," Olivia announced after 2 days of non-stop work. The room fell silent as she projected her findings onto the main screen. "These radiation bursts contain encoded information. We're picking up what appears to be a countdown." "A countdown to what?" General Martinez asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. They didn't have to wait long for an answer. 3 days later, as government leaders from around the world gathered in emergency sessions, the countdown reached 0. At exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time, every electronic screen on Earth, from smartphones to billboards, displayed the same message in every known human language. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth. The Galactic Concordance acknowledges your technological advancement. Preparation for evaluation has begun. Stand by for emissary arrival." Panic spread across the globe. Religious groups claimed it was the end times. Conspiracy theorists felt vindicated. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. Stock markets crashed, then froze completely. In his office at the United Nations, Secretary General Victor Okafor tried to maintain order through emergency broadcasts. "We ask all citizens to remain calm. We have no reason to believe this is a hostile action. International experts are working together to establish communication." But nobody was prepared for what happened next. During an emergency session of the UN General Assembly, the air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. Guards raised their weapons as a tall, crystalline figure materialized. It stood nearly 9 feet tall with a body that seemed to be made of transparent, shifting crystals that caught and reflected light in impossible ways. "I am the emissary of the Galactic Concordance," it said, its voice somehow perfectly understandable to everyone present despite having no visible mouth. "I come to deliver evaluation notice and warning." Secretary General Okafor stepped forward. "On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth. We are honored to make first contact with your civilization." The crystal being tilted what appeared to be its head. "This is not first contact. The Concordance has observed Earth for 17 of your centuries. Your recent technological acceleration has triggered formal evaluation protocols." The room erupted in whispers until the emissary raised a crystalline limb. Silence fell instantly as if commanded. "Your species has been classified as a potential crisis species due to your combination of rapid technological development, aggressive territorial expansion, and resource consumption patterns. You have one planetary rotation cycle to demonstrate why we should not enact containment protocols." "Containment protocols?" Okafor asked, his diplomatic training barely hiding his concern. "What exactly does that mean?" The emissary projected a holographic image above the assembly. It showed a planet, not Earth, but something similar, surrounded by a shimmering field. 63 developing species are currently under containment fields that prevent further technological advancement and interstellar travel. This measure protects the galactic ecosystem from destabilizing influences. Fear spread through the assembly. The Russian ambassador stood up without waiting to be recognized. "This is unacceptable. You have no right to judge us or limit our development." The emissary turned its crystalline face toward him. "Rights are granted by power, Ambassador. The Concordance has maintained galactic stability for 50,000 of your years. Your cooperation is preferred but not required for containment implementation. President Eleanor Mason of the United States stepped forward. What form will this evaluation take? How do we prepare? Select your finest defenders and representatives, the emissary replied. Those who represent the best qualities of humanity. They will face challenges designed to assess your species' potential and threat level. Before anyone could ask more questions, the emissary added, I will return in 24 hours to collect your representatives. They should be prepared for extended evaluation. With that, the crystalline being shimmered and vanished. Chaos erupted in the chamber as diplomats rushed to contact their governments. In a small side room off the main assembly, President Mason gathered with other world leaders. We need to assemble a team immediately, she said. Our best and brightest. Who decides what best means? Asked Premier Liu of China. This must be a globally representative group. Agreed, said President Nkosi of the African Union. But more importantly, we need people who can adapt to unknown challenges. This isn't just about credentials. As debates raged about who should represent humanity, Major Jack Harlow was summoned to a secure facility beneath the Pentagon. He found himself in a room with 24 other people, scientists, soldiers, artists, and thinkers from around the world. A tall woman in a naval uniform addressed them. I'm Admiral Diane Powell. You've all been pre-selected based on psychological profiles and skill sets. What you're about to hear is classified at the highest level. She dimmed the lights and activated a screen showing historical images, ancient cave paintings, medieval tapestries, Renaissance artwork, all featuring crystal beings similar to the emissary. This isn't our first encounter with the Concordance, she explained. They've been watching us for centuries, occasionally making contact with individuals. We've been preparing for this moment through a secret international program, codenamed Bulwark Protocol. Jack looked around the room, seeing his own shock reflected on other faces. Why weren't we told? Asked Dr. Samuel Kim, a quantum physicist whose work Jack recognized from scientific journals. Need to know basis, Powell replied simply. And now you need to know because you 12 will be humanity's representatives in whatever trials the Concordance has planned. 12 people to decide the fate of 8 billion? Asked Maria Gonzalez, a linguist famous for creating communication systems for nonverbal individuals. Not decide, demonstrate, Powell corrected. You won't be asked to surrender or negotiate terms. Your job is to show these aliens why humanity deserves its freedom. Jack looked at the strangers around him, his new teammates, and felt the weight of responsibility settling onto his shoulders. In 24 hours, they would face challenges designed by beings who had mastered technologies humans could barely imagine. As the briefing continued, Jack couldn't help but wonder, had humanity truly prepared enough for this moment? Or were they about to face the final warning before their civilization was forever contained? The 12 chosen representatives gathered in a large room beneath the Pentagon. They had less than 18 hours before the emissary would return. Admiral Powell stood before a digital map showing small lights blinking across the globe. These are Bulwark Protocol stations, she explained. For 70 years we've been collecting and studying alien technology from brief encounters and crashed scout ships. We knew this day would come eventually. Jack raised his hand. Why wasn't I told about this? I have top security clearance. Because until now you didn't need to know, Powell answered simply. The Bulwark Protocol operated above all government and military structures. Only 3 people in each major nation knew of its existence. Professor Alan Garcia stepped forward. He was a short man with thick glasses and an eager expression. Despite being world famous for his theories on non-human intelligence, he looked oddly out of place among the soldiers and scientists. The Concordance has visited Earth many times, Alan explained. They usually appear as observers during major technological leaps. They were here during the first nuclear tests, the moon landing, and the activation of the Large Hadron Collider. Each time they left behind small pieces of technology, perhaps accidentally. Or as breadcrumbs, suggested Commander Natalie Reeves, a former Navy SEAL with short black hair and intense eyes. Testing if we could find and understand them. Dr. Samuel Kim nodded in agreement. And we did understand them. That's why I'm here. He held up what looked like a small silver marble. This is reverse engineered from concordance tech. It allows us to translate any language instantly. We'll all need one. Admiral Powell checked her watch. You have 5 hours to prepare before we fly to the final selection site, study these files, and get to know each other. The team was given tablets containing information about the concordance that had been gathered over decades. Jack sat next to Maria Gonzalez, the linguist. She read faster than anyone he'd ever seen. Finding patterns is what I do, she explained when she caught him watching. And there's a pattern here in how the concordance deals with developing species. They always follow the same evaluation protocol. Which is, Jack asked, 5 challenges that test different aspects of intelligence and civilization development. Physical capability, technological understanding, moral reasoning, social cohesion, and adaptability. Eric Johnson, a diplomatic negotiator with calm eyes and a reassuring voice, joined their conversation. The key is understanding that this isn't about passing or failing. It's about how we approach the challenges. 5 hours later, they boarded a sleek black aircraft. Jack had never seen anything like it before. Hypersonic transport, Dr. Kim explained proudly. Built with principles we learned from concordance technology. It can reach any point on Earth within 90 minutes. They arrived at a hidden facility carved into the Swiss Alps. The entrance was disguised as an old research station, but inside was a vast complex filled with advanced technology. Teams of scientists and military personnel worked at stations monitoring global communications. Welcome to Bulwark Prime, said a tall woman, who introduced herself as Director Helen Ward. This facility has been operational since 1973. We've been preparing for this moment for generations. The 12 representatives were led to a circular room where they would undergo final evaluation. We need to ensure you're the right team, Director Ward explained. The concordance will subject you to extreme pressure. We need to know you won't break. What followed was 6 hours of the most intense testing any of them had ever experienced. They solved impossible puzzles while exposed to extreme temperatures. They made moral decisions while under time pressure. They worked together to overcome physical challenges that seemed designed to force them to compete, rather than cooperate. Through it all, Darius Washington, a civil engineer whose designs had revolutionized sustainable urban development, emerged as a natural leader. His calm voice helped focus the team when tensions rose. Remember, he said during a particularly difficult challenge, they want to see how we handle pressure, not just if we can solve the problem. By the end, they were exhausted but united. Director Ward looked pleased as she reviewed their results. From our final team will consist of 8 members, she announced. Major Jack Harlow, Commander Natalie Reeves, Dr. Samuel Kim, Maria Gonzalez, Eric Johnson, Professor Alan Garcia, Darius Washington, and Dr. Lisa Chen. Dr. Chen was a medical researcher who had rarely spoken during the tests, but had shown remarkable insight when analyzing concordance biology from the limited data available. The others who had not been selected left the room, their disappointment visible but their understanding clear. Humanity needed the absolute best for this challenge. Night fell. The 8 finalists were given 6 hours to rest before the emissaries' return. Jack found himself unable to sleep. He wandered to the facility's observation deck where he found Natalie Reeves looking at the stars. Nervous? He asked. Focused, she replied. My grandfather was at Roswell in 1947. He always said what crashed wasn't what they told the public. Now I know he was right. You think that was the concordance? A scout ship, according to the files. They've been watching us for a long time, trying to decide if we're a threat. She turned to face him. What do you think they'll decide? Jack considered the question. I think they'll see what I've always seen in humanity, that we're capable of both terrible destruction and remarkable creation. The question is which one they'll focus on. Our job is to make sure they see both sides clearly, she said, and to show them that our potential for good far outweighs the rest. At dawn, they gathered in a large chamber equipped with technology, beyond anything publicly available on Earth. Director Ward handed each of them a small device to wear behind their ears. These will help you understand alien concepts that might otherwise be incomprehensible to human minds, she explained. They work by stimulating neural pathways. Exactly at noon, the air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. The emissary appeared, its crystalline body catching the light. The evaluation period begins now, it announced. Are these your chosen representatives? Admiral Powell stepped forward. They are. The best humanity has to offer. The emissary seemed to study each of them in turn. They will be tested beyond their understanding. Some may not survive. We understand the risks, Jack said, speaking for the team. We're ready. Are you? The emissary asked, its tone impossible to read. No species is ever truly ready for what comes next. Before anyone could respond, the entire team disappeared in a flash of light, leaving behind only Admiral Powell and the facility staff staring at empty space where Earth's champions had stood. The challenge had begun. Jack felt his body tingle as the world disappeared around him. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness and a strange pulling sensation. Then, suddenly, he could see again. He and the 7 other team members stood in a vast chamber unlike anything he had ever seen before. The walls seemed to shift and move as if they were made of liquid metal. The ceiling curved high above them, showing what looked like stars but in patterns Jack did not recognize from Earth's night sky. The floor, beneath their feet, glowed with soft blue light that pulsed gently. Is everyone okay? Darius asked, checking on the team. They all nodded, looking around in wonder and fear. The emissary appeared before them, its crystal body now glowing with internal light. You are now aboard the evaluation vessel. This ship exists partially outside your normal spacetime. Here, you will face the 5 trials. Dr. Kim stepped forward. What exactly will these trials test? Each trial examines a different aspect of your species' potential, the emissary explained. Many civilizations have stood where you now stand. Few have passed all 5 trials. And what happens to those who fail? Commander Reeves asked directly. The emissary's body shifted colors slightly, turning a deeper blue. They are contained. Their worlds are placed under protective barriers that prevent further technological advancement until they evolve beyond their self-destructive tendencies. And how long does that usually take? Eric asked, his diplomatic training evident in his calm tone. The average is 17,000 years, the emissary replied simply. Some never advance beyond containment. The team exchanged worried glances. The stakes were even higher than they had imagined. The first trial begins now, the emissary announced. The room around them shifted, walls flowing like water, until they stood in what appeared to be a laboratory filled with strange equipment. This is the trial of intellect, the emissary explained. Before you is a problem that has collapsed 17 prior civilizations. You have 1 planetary rotation to solve it. On a table in the center of the room sat what looked like a small metal cube. Next to it were tools and materials unlike anything they had seen before. Professor Garcia examined the cube carefully. It appears to be some kind of power generator, but the energy flow is all wrong. Dr. Kim nodded. The patterns suggest it's designed to produce energy, but something is causing it to consume itself instead. For hours they worked on the problem. The cube was a puzzle of incredible complexity. Whenever they seemed close to a solution, new problems would appear. Dr. Chen discovered that the cube changed its internal structure in response to their attempts to fix it. It's learning from us, she said, adapting to defeat our solutions. By hour 18, tempers were fraying. Jack noticed that Dr. Kim had been staring at the cube without speaking for nearly an hour. Sam, you okay? He asked. Dr. Kim looked up with sudden clarity in his eyes. We're approaching this all wrong. Every species before us probably tried to find the perfect solution, the mathematically ideal answer. And, Maria asked, and that's not how humans solve problems. He gathered the team around. We don't need perfection. We need something that works well enough, something flexible that can adapt as conditions change. They changed their approach. Instead of trying to fix the cube completely, they created a workaround, a system that could adjust to the cube's changing nature. It's not elegant, Dr. Kim admitted as they finished their work with only minutes to spare. But it's sustainable. It will keep working even as conditions change. The emissary returned as their time expired. It examined their solution in silence. Interesting, it finally said. You did not solve the problem as expected, yet your solution achieves sustainable function through adaptation rather than perfection. This approach is unusual. Is that good or bad? Jack asked. It is merely different, the emissary replied. The second trial awaits. The room shifted again, and they found themselves in what looked like a council chamber with 8 seats arranged in a circle. In the center was a holographic display showing various scenarios. This is the trial of moral reasoning, the emissary explained. You must judge these situations according to your ethical framework. The scenarios were increasingly difficult moral dilemmas. Some involved sacrificing few to save many. Others presented conflicts between truth and compassion, freedom and security. The team often disagreed, sometimes heatedly. Your moral framework is inconsistent, the emissary noted after several hours. Different team members applied different principles to similar situations. Commander Reeves stood up. That's because human morality isn't fixed. It's adaptive. We have core principles, but how we apply them depends on context and circumstances. This inconsistency would seem to be a weakness, the emissary observed. It's actually our strength, Eric said. Rigid moral systems break when faced with new situations. Our flexibility allows us to handle unexpected challenges and grow from them. The emissary seemed to consider this. An unusual perspective. The trial continues. By the end of the second trial, the team was exhausted but encouraged. They had defended human moral reasoning not by claiming perfection, but by showing how its adaptive nature was suited for a changing universe. The third trial began without warning. The room darkened, and suddenly they were surrounded by vivid, holographic scenes of humanity's darkest moments: wars, genocides, environmental destruction. This is the trial of self-knowledge, the emissary's voice explained from all around them. Many species deny their capacity for destruction. They present only their achievements while hiding their failures. For hours, they witnessed humanity's worst acts throughout history. It was painful to watch, especially with the emissary observing their reactions. Finally, Maria stepped forward. We don't deny these horrors. They are part of our history. But they don't define us completely. They demonstrate your destructive potential, the emissary countered. Why should a species capable of such acts be allowed unrestricted development? Because we remember them, Maria replied. We study our failures, so we can learn from them. Our darkness helps define our light. The scene shifted to show memorials, museums dedicated to historical atrocities and educational programs teaching about past mistakes. We carry our history with us, Darius added. Not to celebrate it, but to ensure we don't repeat it. The emissary was silent for a long moment. Most species attempt to hide their shameful past. Your willingness to acknowledge yours is noteworthy. As the third trial ended, Jack realized they were halfway through the challenges. Despite their exhaustion, a small hope was growing. Perhaps humanity really did have something special to offer the galaxy after all. But the hardest tests were still to come. The team had little time to rest before the room changed again. This time, the walls disappeared completely. Each team member found themselves alone in what seemed like endless white space. The fourth trial begins now. The emissary's voice echoed around them. This is the trial of unity. You will each face your greatest fears and weaknesses separately. How you respond will determine your success or failure. Jack looked around but could see nothing but white in all directions. Suddenly, the space around him transformed into a battlefield. He recognized it immediately, the same valley in Afghanistan where he had lost half his squad years ago. His heart raced as the sounds of gunfire filled his ears. Similar scenarios unfolded for each team member. Dr. Kim found himself back in the laboratory where his experimental error had once caused an explosion that injured his closest colleague. Maria saw herself failing to communicate crucial information during a crisis situation, leading to devastating consequences. Each scenario was perfectly crafted to trigger their deepest guilt, fear, and self-doubt. As Jack relived his most painful memory, he heard a voice that wasn't the emissary's. "This is a test." Natalie's voice came through faintly in his ear. "Remember the devices Director Ward gave us." Jack touched the small device behind his ear. Somehow, Natalie had found a way to use them as communication tools. One by one, the team members connected with each other despite being physically separated. "They're trying to break us down individually," Eric explained. "Previous species must have turned against each other when isolated and under stress." "Stay focused on why we're here," Darius added. "This isn't just about us as individuals, it's about all of humanity." For hours, each team member endured personalized psychological warfare designed to break their spirit. The scenarios grew increasingly difficult, exploiting every weakness and doubt. But through it all, they maintained their connection, supporting each other with words of encouragement and reminders of their purpose. When Jack felt ready to surrender to despair, Dr. Chen's calm voice reminded him, "This pain you feel shows your capacity for empathy. Don't reject it. Channel it. Show them how humans use even our darkest experiences to grow stronger." Finally, the white spaces dissolved, and the team found themselves back together in the original chamber. They looked exhausted but unbroken. The emissary appeared, its crystalline form shifting through shades of blue and purple. "Remarkable. You are the first species to maintain unity despite direct psychological manipulation. Previous evaluations resulted in team members blaming each other for their failures or attempting to secure individual salvation at the expense of the group. Humans are stronger together than apart," Commander Reeves said simply. "It's been true throughout our history." "Perhaps," the emissary acknowledged. "Rest now. The final trial approaches." As the team recovered in a space that resembled comfortable human quarters, Jack noticed Professor Garcia studying the walls with unusual intensity. "Something interesting?" Jack asked. "Very," Alan replied quietly, gesturing for the others to gather close. "There are flaws in the construction of this vessel, signs of technological regression." "What do you mean?" Dr. Kim whispered. "Look at the pattern variations in the walls. The newer sections show less sophisticated design than the older parts. The concordance is declining, not advancing." This revelation sparked intense but hushed discussion. While the team rested, Admiral Powell made contact through their communication devices, which she revealed had been purposely designed to work aboard the alien vessel. "We have new information," she told them. "Our sensors have detected cloaked concordance vessels positioning themselves around Earth. They're preparing for containment regardless of your performance in the trials." The team was stunned by this betrayal. "So the whole evaluation is a sham?" Maria asked. "It appears so," Powell confirmed. "Intelligence suggests the concordance is a dying institution. They use containment to prevent emerging species from eventually surpassing them." Before they could discuss further, the chamber transformed again. The emissary appeared with what seemed to be a delegation of various alien forms, some gaseous, others solid, all strange to human eyes. "You have reached the fifth and final trial," the emissary announced. "The trial of choice." A holographic display appeared showing two options. Option 1. Earth accepts protected status. You will receive limited advanced technology and knowledge, but remain under concordance oversight indefinitely. Your development will be guided along safe paths. Option 2. Earth rejects oversight and faces the unfiltered dangers of the galaxy without concordance protection. Be warned, many hostile forces exist beyond your understanding. The team exchanged glances, silently communicating their knowledge of the hidden concordance ships. Eric stepped forward, his diplomatic experience guiding his words. "We request a third option, recognition of full human sovereignty and concordance, non-interference." The alien delegates seemed to ripple with surprise. The emissary's crystalline form darkened. "There is no third option. The choices presented are final." "Then before we decide," Eric continued smoothly, I request a private audience with the Concordance Council. There is information they should consider. After brief consultation, the request was granted. The team watched nervously as Eric followed the emissary into a separate chamber. Inside, Eric revealed what humanity knew. We are aware of the containment fleet already positioned around Earth, he stated calmly. But more importantly, we have this. He produced a small device and activated it. Holographic images appeared showing classified files detailing recovered alien technology from incidents throughout human history. This isn't our first encounter with your kind, Eric explained. We've been studying your technology for generations. We've even reverse-engineered some of it. The emissary's form flickered slightly, the first sign of genuine surprise they had seen from it. The concordance has declined technologically over the centuries, Eric continued. Professor Garcia noticed the regression patterns in your vessel's construction. You fear new species because you know they might eventually surpass you. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Powell activated a planetary defense system incorporating both human-developed technology and adapted alien principles. The system sent a clear message to the containment fleet. Earth was not as defenseless as they had assumed. When Eric returned to the team, his expression was cautiously optimistic. They're reconsidering our status. The final decision will come soon. Jack looked at his teammates, scientists, soldiers, and diplomats who had proven humanity's worth not through perfection, but through adaptability, moral growth, unity, and preparation. Whatever they decide, he said quietly, we've shown them the truth about humanity. We didn't just prepare for their challenge. We've been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. As they waited for the Concordance's final verdict, one thing became clear. Humanity had earned the right to face the future on its own terms. The final warning had not found them unprepared after all. The waiting seemed endless. The team sat in tense silence as the Concordance Council deliberated. Through the transparent walls of their chamber, they could see the alien delegates engaged in what appeared to be heated debate. The crystalline forms of some delegates flashed with bright colors while gaseous beings swirled in agitated patterns. What do you think they're saying? Jack asked Eric, who had witnessed the council up close. They're afraid, Eric replied softly. Not just of us, but of what we represent. Change, evolution, the unknown. Dr. Kim nodded. Advanced civilizations often reach a point where stability becomes more important than progress. They stop taking risks and start containing anyone. Who still does, Commander Reeves added. After 3 hours of waiting, the chamber door dissolved. The emissary entered alone, its crystalline form now a deep purple color they hadn't seen before. The council has reached a decision, it announced. It was not unanimous. The team stood together, shoulders touching in a silent display of unity. Humanity's evaluation has produced unexpected results, the emissary continued. Your adaptability exceeds our predictive models. Your moral framework, while inconsistent by our standards, shows remarkable flexibility. Your unity under pressure defies historical precedent. Jack felt a surge of hope, but kept his expression neutral. The emissary's tone gave away nothing. Most concerning is your level of preparation, the emissary said. The Concordance believed your encounters with our technology were isolated incidents. We now understand they were part of a coordinated, multi-generational effort to prepare for exactly this moment. Maria stepped forward. We've been looking to the stars since we first developed consciousness. Preparing for contact, whether friendly or not, is simply part of who we are. The emissary's form shifted slightly. The Council has reconsidered the containment recommendation. Earth will be reclassified as a sovereign emergent civilization with full developmental rights. Relief washed over the team, but the emissary wasn't finished. However, the Council has concerns about your rapid development. We propose a monitoring station in your solar system. It would not interfere with your activities, merely observe and report. The team looked to Eric, their diplomatic expert. He considered the offer carefully. We would accept observation under 2 conditions, he replied. First, all data collected must be shared with Earth. Second, human representatives must be allowed to serve alongside concordance observers at the station. The emissary was silent for a long moment. These terms are unusual, but acceptable. Darius stepped forward. One more thing. We want access to the historical records of contained species. If you truly value diversity in the galaxy, then those civilizations deserve another evaluation using our standards, not just yours. This request clearly surprised the emissary. Its form flickered rapidly through several colors. That is not possible. The containment protocols are absolute. Nothing is absolute, Dr. Chen said firmly. If your evaluation of us can change, so can your assessment of others. That's the true test of an advanced civilization. The ability to reconsider your own rules. The emissary departed without responding, returning to the council chamber. The debate among the aliens seemed even more intense than before. That might have been pushing too far, Jack said quietly. Professor Garcia shook his head. It was exactly right. We're not just fighting for ourselves now. We're standing for a principle, that growth and change are fundamental rights of all intelligent species. When the emissary returned, its crystalline form had settled into a calm blue tone. The Council agrees to review containment cases. A joint commission including human representatives will examine each case individually. This is unprecedented, but the Council recognizes that unprecedented times require new approaches. As the team prepared to return to Earth, the emissary made one final statement. There is something you should understand. The concordance has existed for 50,000 of your years. In that time, we have evaluated over 300 emerging civilizations. You are only the 7th to pass all trials. But you are the first to challenge the trials themselves. With that, the team found themselves enveloped in light. When they could see again, they were back in the facility beneath the Swiss Alps. Admiral Powell and Director Ward rushed forward to greet them. You did it, Powell said, relief evident in her voice. The containment fleet is withdrawing. The next few days were filled with debriefings and celebrations. World leaders gathered to honor the 8 representatives who had defended Earth's freedom. Global broadcasts showed cheering crowds in cities across the planet. But for Jack, the most meaningful moment came during a private conversation with Admiral Powell. What happens now? He asked her as they watched the sunrise from the facility's observation deck. Now we truly prepare, she replied. The concordance isn't the only power in the galaxy. Some will be friendly, others hostile. But whatever comes, next humanity faces it as equals, not as subjects. And the Containment Review Commission, Jack asked? Powell smiled. Professor Garcia and Dr. Chen have already volunteered to serve. They leave for the Concordance homeworld next month to begin work. 1 week later, the team gathered one last time before returning to their normal lives, though nothing would ever truly be normal again. The world had changed fundamentally. Humanity now knew without doubt that they were not alone in the universe. Darius raised a glass in toast. To facing the challenge. And being prepared for it, Natalie added. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Jack found himself alone with Dr. Kim, watching the stars through a powerful telescope. Do you think they'll come back? Jack asked. Try again to contain us? Dr. Kim shook his head. I don't think so. The emissary seemed genuinely surprised by us. I think we showed them something they hadn't seen before, a species that embraces change rather than fearing it. What was that thing you said during the first trial, about how humans solve problems? That we don't need perfection, Kim replied. We find solutions that work well enough and can adapt as conditions change. It's messy but effective. Jack nodded, looking up at the stars with new eyes. The final warning from the aliens had not been the end of humanity's journey. It was just the beginning. Earth was now recognized as a sovereign world with the right to forge its own path among the stars. And if other challenges came, as they surely would, humanity would face them the same way they had faced this one, prepared, united, and unafraid to challenge the rules of the game itself. They warned us about the galaxy, Jack said quietly. But maybe they should have warned the galaxy about us.